Well, hello everyone. Welcome to the show. I'm here today with Hannah Presence.
Hello.
Hello. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I'm really pleased to have you. And we have a special guest today as well, who's being very well behaved, aren't you? Yes.
Thanks for having me too. Thanks for having us.
So Hannah, thank you for joining me today, as I said. You are a yoga teacher, been running your own business for 5 years now. In addition to running your classes, you also run retreats across the world, which is fantastic. And then also you've got a project where you run classes in prisons as well, which is amazing.
Yeah.
But while I think you've always had like an athletic and maybe a fitness background, I know you did athletics as a child and represented your county.
Yeah, I love that. Hurdles and all sorts.
That's so cool. And you also hold the record for like the youngest person to swim a mile in Great Britain.
Yeah, I still have that as well.
That's really good.
Hasn't been beaten yet, as far as I know. It was really funny actually, because a number of years after, it was in the paper. Some couple of lawyers, their child at 5, I think 5.5. She swam a mile and they contacted it was all over the papers, and my dad, the swimming coach, he rang up, he's like, "Nope, that's wrong, my daughter was the youngest one," sent everything in and totally blew their hopes and dreams out the water. But yeah, so that was the only challenger I think I've had on that one.
Oh no, but you were 4, yeah, very young. Gosh.
4.5, yeah.
Wow. So you've always had that passion, I suppose, for fitness, but you haven't always taught yoga, have you?
No.
So can you just tell us like a bit about how you found your way to yoga, like so your career, I suppose, since from leaving school, really?
Gosh, well, that's a bit of a journey. Yeah. I ended up after sort of leaving school, because at school I never really knew what I wanted to do. I loved school, but I didn't like it at the same time. I'm not very good at making myself sit down and study, and I wasn't very kind of academic. I was more active and like doing things, and my learning style was very different from the learning style they kind of put you in at school. Sit down, shut up, do this. I'm like the opposite. So I excelled in PE and biology, but everything else I pretty much failed. Not failed, but got C's and D's and stuff like that.
It wasn't your passion, so therefore you didn't really focus on it. Would you say that's fair enough?
Yeah. I mean, I was a kinetic kind of worker, a learner, so doing things and expressing myself through my body and movement and my voice. So then I left school and I ended up going into sales because obviously I didn't have many qualifications or an idea of what I wanted to do. My dad was a sales manager and he worked for many different sales companies and stuff, and he said, "Well, Hannah," he's like, "you can earn lots of money doing sales, but without the qualifications, how does that sound?" I was like, "Well, yeah, brilliant." Yeah. So I got myself a job in selling double glazing, which was, the toughest job ever.
Oh my gosh, I can imagine.
Yeah, so we got put on this 5-day training course where they kind of like drill it into you. It was a commission-only role, so self-employed. You didn't get a basic. You basically had to go into people's houses, sell it to them on the night as well, because if you didn't sell it to them there and then, the manager used to go and pick it up a few days later and keep it for himself. So you were under so much pressure to actually sell. And my dad, being a big kind of hard-nosed salesman that he kind of he worked for a different company, but he used to kind of give me little tips and stuff like that. Okay. And it really wasn't I would say it didn't suit my personality at that stage, but that was a blessing really, because when most people think of, a double glazing salesperson's going to come to the door, they kind of imagine some kind of, like ex-car salesman that stinks of fags and, gold teeth and all that kind of stuff. And so when little old me, 18-year-old me, is at the door, like little girl from Cumbria, you could see already like the the stress kind of leave their body, like, oh, this girl's not gonna, stitch us up kind of thing. So it kind of actually did work in my favour, and I did become quite good at the job. Within 3 months, I was top seller in the company.
Amazing.
And I got promoted down to London. I was in Hertfordshire at the time. So I had an office in Harrow, which I helped co-run with the manager. So part of my role as assistant manager was to train all the new people that had just come off the course. And it just felt surreal because I'd only come off the course 3 months ago, and I felt like I was still such a rookie, such a new person in the business. And yeah, I just took new people out with me and showed them how I dealt with customers and stuff like that, and it just seemed to work. And I used to like taking new people out with me because I would kind of shine a little bit more. You know, like if you're kind of not really feeling up to it and you're tired one day and you go and you think, oh, I'll just skip this bit out and I'll skip this bit out and I'll go straight to that. And a lot of the times when you skip bits out of the presentation, that's when you end up not selling. So I would do it pitch perfect from start to finish, and I would always pretty much sell the product. So that was really, really good. But yeah, it was a tough job. It was very unsociable hours. It was working weekends. It was working, going around people's houses. So when they'd finish work, so there was a lot of evenings.
Okay.
And, like 18, 19, 20 years old, it just got too much. I earned so much money, but I used to say to my friends, I have no time to spend it.
No.
I don't see anyone. I don't do anything. All I do is work. So I then later went into, medical sales, and I wanted to be in a sales position where people respected the person as well, because, I always felt, although I earned a lot of money and the job was a great foundation point for actually the rest of my life, I was always a little bit embarrassed to say what I did.
Okay.
So, I think some of the most respected people in sales are the medical industry. They're the highest paid, and they work with doctors and physicians, and, so I ended up more going into that field, and then into the veterinary sector, where I was an account manager for, for our company for a lot of veterinary surgeries and stuff. So I did that for a while as well. But going back to the whole double glazing thing, that kind of set me up for the rest of my life in terms of people skills, dealing with all different kinds of people, learning the psychology of sales, learning how consumers' mindset works, learning kind of like they call it like the sales curve. So it's like raising the desire, bringing them back down, and just all the little sales techniques that actually are transferable to every business. And I've actually nearly finished my first ebook on the business of yoga, and how sales and marketing, how that really helps with setting up your yoga business. So there's a lot of what I've just said actually in there, and lots of little tips and techniques that I learned from the sales courses I've been on, and how I've kind of put that into starting my own business. And it is transferable skills with whatever you're doing. So and then fast forward a few more years, I'm here with the yoga business.
That's
and
amazing.
Doing little bits here and there. So yeah, it's good.
You're so right. I think you can think like with my dad, he kind of got me into banking and that sort of thing. And I feel like I was kind of like, not railroaded, but kind of pointed in the direction of a particular career. And obviously fathers do that with the best intentions. And you may look back and think, oh, that might not have been the best time, but you're so right, because I've learnt so many skills that I can apply to any business, just like you're saying. And if you're in business, you have to be in a position to basically sell yourself. And if you have those skills, then that's amazing. It's a great place to start, because I think a lot of people that are creative start with an intention to start a business, but they don't necessarily know how to market themselves. So if you have a career where you've had that experience, I think that's really helpful. And from what you're saying, it's really helped you with your yoga, to promote your business, because you're very successful in what you do. You've got obviously your classes and you do your retreats as well. How is it, do you have to market that a different way, or do you find it's with your retreats, is that a separate clientele that come to that, or is it your existing clients that come with you?
I just think it's really interesting how everything happens for a reason, and everything I look back on, I'm thinking, God, if I hadn't done that, it wouldn't be because of that, and I hadn't done this. And retreats always scared the life out of me, and I put them off for as long as possible. You know, so first I did the classes. First I did privates, then I did classes, then I did workshops, you know, and I expanded. And then, you know, one year I had like 4 or 5 of my students like, Hannah, when are you going to do a retreat? Hannah, when are you going to do a retreat? Please do a retreat. So I kind of felt a little bit, not pressured into it, but I just thought, okay, now's the right time. I've got to answer the callings. And actually, I'm such a huge believer in like the law of attraction and the secret. Like I use the law of attraction daily with what I want to do. So I kind of put out there, and I thought, wow, I must start doing retreats. And literally the next day, I had an inbox in my on my Instagram from Italy. From a guy called Gabriele, and he's the manager of Perugia's, one of Perugia's top wedding venues, and outside their wedding season they wanted to expand in doing things like retreats and stuff like that. So obviously it was his first kind of thoughts on a retreat, and it was my first kind of thoughts. And at first I'm thinking, you know, is this too good to be true? You know, it's Instagram, there's a guy messaging me, he's invited me out to Italy, like you know, what's going to happen.
Exactly.
You always have to question yourself, I think, as a woman as well.
Definitely.
Like, you know, why is this man asking me to go out to Italy for the weekend? So I just happened to say to one of my friends, look, do you fancy a little trip to Italy?
Yeah.
And she was like, yeah, great. So we went to Rome, hired a car, spent a few days in Rome, and then we drove up to Perugia, where we were invited to stay for a couple of nights, see the place, and then have a meeting with Gabriele, who was married. He was the most respectful person ever. And I was just like, oh, this is brilliant.
Thank God.
Yeah, no dodginess at all, but you have to kind of have that in the back of your mind just to be aware, just in case, you know.
Yeah.
And you know, and we sat down, and I just loved the place. I got on really well with him. Our values aligned, our passions aligned, and it was amazing. So, and he did all of the work.
Oh, brilliant.
It was just like, you know, I was like, oh, I don't want to do a retreat, it's going to be so stressful. I manifested the most incredible place with the most incredible person who put it all together for me. He did all the market research of retreats in the area. He said, like, this is the kind of the price I think we should go at with this and that. Let me know how much you want for the yoga. And it just worked. And, you know, my first retreat sold out in less than 2 weeks. And then the retreat after that sold out. So we did last year, the year before sold out in 2 weeks. Last year sold out in less than 2 weeks. This year, I've got a couple more spaces left.
Yeah.
And we had 17 this year, and 10 out of the 17 have already signed up for next year. So I haven't been too like pushing it too much. I've been a bit more relaxed about it. Yeah. But yeah, it just happened. So in answer to your question, actually, all of my retreat clients are the people that come to my class and my workshop.
Amazing.
So if I hadn't have spent that time building that up, I could have had a retreat that wasn't successful, or I couldn't fill it, or something like that. I mean, I probably would have been a bit more proactive with putting it on retreat sites and spreading it around and paying for advertising, but I've not had to do any of that. I just mention it in my classes.
Yes.
People signed up. People loved it last year. Then I've got people's husbands coming, sister-in-laws, best friends. So it's starting to, I pretty much know most people that come, but they'll invite a friend or a daughter or this or that, and it's just kind of been really organic.
I think that's the best way to grow, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, because I don't think in the age where there's so much social media, people are more aware when they're being sort of like sold to or advertised to, and like a personal word of mouth recommendation, you can't beat that now.
No.
And that's so important. So you said, obviously, just something I picked up on what you said about the law of attraction and how you attracted it into your life. Is that something that you've always been aware of from a young age, or is it something that you discovered and you've grown into?
Such an amazing story. I used to be really unlucky, actually. I would be the person at school that like never win a competition or a raffle, or literally I was always so unlucky. And being a Capricorn, you know, born in the winter, I think we are naturally, Earth people are naturally quite pessimistic. So we think of the worst before we think of the best. And that's how I was. And I remember going out to see my older sister. I have a half sister, and she lived in LA at the time. I hadn't seen her for many years, and I went out there when I was 21.
And flies back.
Flies back. And I remember she was quite chilled. I was a little bit bored one day, and I was just sitting up on her balcony, and she brought me the book it's on your leg. Brought me the book that she'd been telling me about for ages. And I wasn't really a reader. I am a little bit more of a reader now, but I have to be really into it. I couldn't go and read a storybook that someone's made up. I can't do all, is it fiction and stuff? I can't do all that. I don't relate to made up stuff. I want to know like documentaries and raw and you know, experiences and stuff. So she put this book, The Secret, on my lap. And I kind of looked through the concept and thought, secret to money, let's have a look at that. And I went to the chapter and I started reading it. I was just hooked.
Yeah.
I was just like, wow. Because some of it really resonated with me. And it just excited me. Yeah. And I just read the rest of it. And I absolutely loved it. And then I started from the age of 21, 22, I think it was 22, to work with the law of attraction. And in fact, I hadn't really read a book before The Secret since probably school. And I read it, and I've probably read The Secret now, I would say 12 times at least.
Okay.
And I went home and I got the DVD, I got all the CDs, I had the CDs in my car, I'd listen to them everywhere I drove, I'd listen to the book, read the book, it was by my bed, it was always in my bag. And I literally, it was my Bible, and it completely transformed my life, completely. I wouldn't be where I am, who I am, without that book, for sure. It's been probably one of the best things I've actually come into contact with. So yeah, it's just so amazing.
It is.
Yeah.
And I think like we are all energetic beings, and the energy that you have, and especially what you give out, and like in terms of the law of attraction, that is huge. And it's only when you start to become like conscious of it, I think, that you start to think, oh my gosh, like this has actually played a huge part in my life. Yeah. It's you're right.
It happens all the time. Like with the prison, you know, I didn't have to do anything with that. I was on my teacher training in Thailand, and one of our teachers, a guy called Rory, big Scottish guy, long hair, proper like, and I remember him telling us about his journey as a teacher, and he said, as a part of his karma yoga, he went and worked in a man's prison in Edinburgh, and instantly a light bulb went off in my head, and I was like, that drives me. That is what I want to do. You know, as much as I love my yummy mummies and my little group classes and stuff, actually, like, yeah, that's exciting. Yes. That's like cool. Like, I instantly thought that is definitely somewhere where I'm going to go. And, you know, kept that thought there, but hadn't really pursued it. Didn't have the first clue of how I was ever going to get into a prison. And anyway, ended up meeting a woman doing a retreat day for her. She does mindfulness, and she asked me to come and teach a yoga class on her day retreat just to get them all moving, because mindfulness can be a lot of sitting and stuff like that. So I went and did that with her. Her clients absolutely loved it. We stayed in touch, and I just randomly 6 months later had a call from her saying, Hannah, I'm taking my mindfulness course into prisons. Would you at all be interested in working to a prison? And suddenly I remembered that manifestation I'd put out there like a year and a half before, and I was just like, yes. And it had just come through again. So I've been super lucky in my business. Like, I have worked hard, but I'm not gonna lie, stuff has just fallen into my lap. That's like completely. Retreats, people, contacts, the prison, all the stuff that I love to do, I haven't really had to actively go out too much myself and get it. I've just believed in what I've wanted to do. I've been open to every single person, an opportunity that's come, and I've kind of explored that, because I think that's one of the things that we need to do, is when these little nuggets come forward, rather than kind of being in the blinkers and think, oh, that's not what I want, if that's a person that could introduce you to another person that could then get you guys, it's always about being open. And, you know, like when you said before about your plans in the future of a venue and stuff, instantly I thought that could be something. And
exactly,
being open, I think, is one of the things that you need to be for the law of attraction, is just kind of look at everything as an opportunity. But yeah, absolutely, everybody should. It should be taught in schools.
I know.
It should be taught because it gives you, it teaches you mindfulness without you even realising, because I realised how negative my thoughts were, or how much I was like, oh, that will never happen to me and this will never happen. And suddenly after reading this, oh, I can't think that. That might happen if I think that, you know, and then you start to switch your thinking around, and then you start to notice your life changing.
Definitely. It is crazy. And like you say, like, I think you can be like mindfully and attract stuff to you, and you can be very goal focused. And like you say, if you're very blinkered and you're focusing on just the goal and you have a set plan, yes, obviously plan and structure your day and everything to get to where you want to be and take action, because that's hugely important. But at the same time, don't be oblivious to the stuff coming out of left field. Like the opportunities.
It's always the little weird ones you think, oh, I didn't see that coming, and it just gets really exciting because you just like, you know, it was just amazing. So all for the law of attraction.
That's really good.
And The Secret and everything. I've been doing an online one recently, actually, with an American abundance kind of expert. So a few little online seminars and stuff. So that's been really interesting as well, because, just about having blocks, like beliefs, for instance. So I noticed one of the things I did notice actually towards just recently, I would say, is the struggle of being spiritual but also wanting to be successful. Because when you become a yoga teacher, it's like, oh, you know, you shouldn't have anything designer, and you should practice non-attachment, and you shouldn't want money because you should just be happy with who you are, and you don't need money, and money is the root of all evil. And I went from being like, I want to be successful and have a great business and this and this and this, to kind of like being around people that, and it's my responsibility because it was my feeling, but I started to feel guilty for wanting these kind of exterior things. You know, and took on a lot of these beliefs about money and success, and only evil people had success, and blah, 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 blah. And to be a good yoga teacher, I should have nothing and give everything with love. And I did actually start to notice, you know, my wages went down, my luck went down and stuff like that. So revisiting this, and actually, she's a very, very spiritual woman, but saying that, you know, these blocks, these thought patterns that come in that are just stories that you digest and they become part of you, aren't, you know, they're other people's truths. They don't have to be your truths, and you can be successful, and you can be spiritual, and you can have abundance, and we are put on this earth to have everything that we want, and we shouldn't be ashamed of that. And I did become a little bit ashamed of wanting to earn a lot of money and stuff like that. So I'm letting go of that one now, and things are starting to fall back into place. So
amazing.
Yeah.
But I feel that, like, sometimes, like, I think about the yoga community and what I like see from the outside. It's very interesting how they're very, obviously at the core is like mindfulness and soul and everything, but at the same time they're like, you have to do things a certain way, so you're not allowed the freedom of like expression to be yourself. Like, I think that you're right, we're all here, we're all on our own individual journeys, and we shouldn't like have the like that particular way sort of put on us. If you want to have designer stuff and you also want to be mindful and yoga, there is a middle ground. You don't have to be one or another. I think as humans, people, especially like when it comes to people's personalities, like we were saying earlier about the people in the prisons, people like, and how most of them have like come through bad circumstances, or prison's been the norm in their lives. It's people want to categorise people in terms of, this is a good person, this is a bad person. They like definites and people and things in boxes. But life's not like that at all.
Yeah.
And it's very sort of fluid, and you can pick bits and pieces of different yoga way, other bits and lifestyles that you like to make your experience as a human.
Yeah.
Not being sort of like put in one particular category.
It's really amazing you've said that, actually, because I wrote a post on my Instagram about it last night. I don't know if you saw it.
No, I haven't seen it.
It's all about the boxes and the labels. And yes, I wanted to be the best yoga teacher I could be, and I wanted to influence people in all the right ways. And I was, I suppose, naive to a certain extent. You know, I was 26, 27, and I wanted to do everything right. And I think, sort of fell into the model of what people would call the right yoga teacher, but then and I thought that would bring me eternal happiness, because the yogic way is the way of peace and happiness. But actually, I felt like there was parts of myself that I did kind of suppress, and it did ultimately end up making me unhappy.
Yeah.
So actually, the post that I wrote about last night was recently I've kind of been stripping away all of the labels that other people had put on me, that I digested myself, that I had also put on myself, the vegetarian, the vegan, the yoga teacher, the dog owner, the business person. Actually, I was just like, I've just had this real need to just strip it all away and actually re-explore my values now and what makes me happy. And actually, there's something really freeing about just getting rid of all the labels.
Yeah.
Because even things with like veganism and vegetarianism, it's really, really kind of recommended that you are vegan and stuff, and I completely understand why. It's so good for the planet, and it's so loving. And my dog's name, Ahimsa, is the first yama of yoga, which means kindness and sensitivity to all living things. And if you're eating meat, you are not giving kindness and sensitivity to all living things. So the number one thing is that first thing. So it was kind of like I felt this huge pressure to become vegan and vegetarian. And I did it for a number of years, but I became so ill. I had no energy. Days where I couldn't get off the sofa, I was falling asleep. I had a B12 deficiency, and as much as I was taking the B12 tablets and stuff, it just wasn't doing anything. And I had these really low mood swings. So then I went back to being vegetarian, and then I had a little bit of fish here and there, and I just instantly felt so much better. And then fast forward a couple more years, my body just wasn't recovering. I was teaching a class. The next day I was sore. I had constant DOMs. So when you go into the gym, you had a really hard workout and you ache. I was aching constantly. And then I decided to start eating a little bit of meat, maybe once a fortnight, and instantly I don't ache anymore at all now. Like I'll ache if I do something like really unusual for my body, but it would become like for a whole year, I just ached. My joints ached, my muscles ached. I wasn't recovering from anything that I was doing. But the guilt I had inside, like I'd be eating this chicken, like, oh no, is anyone going to see me? Like Hannah, the yoga teacher's eating meat, and it was just so much pressure. Like it really was. Like I didn't take any of my designer bags out with me. I'd be eating totally vegan in public, but like, I'm feeling awful for having a burger and stuff, because I wanted to be this person that is expected of me. And I was just like, this is just making me so unhappy and unhealthy and resentful in a way. So I had to it was a tough decision. I really had to kind of strip everything back and almost not care what people think. And I think that's, again, they always say you shouldn't care what anyone else thinks. It's totally freeing.
That's amazing. So how do you you said you're obviously stripping back on the labels and everything. Where, if you had to give advice to someone who is looking to do the same, how do you go about practically doing that? What advice would you give them?
Well, start with all the things that you're most attached to. So I was actually telling someone the other day, because she was like, oh, your hair used to be really short, didn't it? And about 2 years ago, I cut all my hair off. Because when I was at school, I used to have one summer holidays, I cut all my hair off because my mum's best friend was a hairdresser, and she cut it all off, and I had it spiky, and I used to put glitter in it and clips. I used to think I looked like a pop star, and I loved my hair.
Yeah.
And then I went to school and got massively bullied because I was the only girl that had a short haircut. So I got called all sorts of names. So then I developed this belief that to be feminine, you have to have long hair. So then as soon as I had enough money, Himsa, come here. As soon as I had enough money, I got hair extensions.
Yes.
And I had hair extensions for the best part of 10, 12 years. Like the longer the better. If you see some of my photos, it's like down to my bum. You
Really?
know? Yeah, because I was just absolutely traumatized from trying to be individual and loving who I was with my short hair to being told that was completely wrong. And, you know, so I had this, and I soon realised that I was really attached to my hair extensions. I couldn't not have them in. And I was like, and then I sort of explored, like, where does this come from? Why do I feel like I have to have long hair to be seen as feminine? And then I kind of reflected on it, and I went back to that position, that situation. And I was like, gosh, that's where it's from. And I didn't want to be controlled by that anymore. I didn't want to have other people's beliefs on me control me. So I said to my boyfriend at the time, I was like, I really want to cut my hair off. He's like, you cut all your hair off, I'm not going to be with you. And me being me, I'm like, right, that's it. Next day I was in that hairdresser's, cut it all off. And I felt so feminine.
Yeah.
And I just owned it. And I loved it. And I will go short again, but it was asymmetric. So I had one side short and one side long. It was awful for tying it up for yoga. Yeah. So this is like kind of longish for what it was like before. But it's good because I can tie it up. But it was just so freeing to get rid of those extensions, all of those old beliefs, all of that kind of energy tied up with other people and a past as well that kind of damaged me, to step into who I am and feel really womanly with a boy's haircut. Yeah. So to speak. Or not a boy's haircut.
No, exactly.
Another woman's haircut. So something like that. That was quite an extreme case.
Yeah.
But looking at the things that define you, like I'm a vegan, I'm an Arsenal supporter, I'm a this, I'm a that, all these things, these egoic things that we define ourselves with, these are our definitions, but these are also our restrictions and our boxes.
Yeah.
Because, you know, if you're an Arsenal supporter and you get one of your Chelsea friends offers you like an opportunity of a lifetime to go into one of the boxes, but you're like, because you've put yourself in that position, you're like, oh no, I can't, you know, but inside you might actually really want to.
Exactly.
So all of these things, like, you know, all of these things that you find define yourself, just explore them a little bit and just think, well, where's that come from? Is that what my parents have put on me?
Yeah.
Is that what the bullies at school have put on me? Is that what an ex-boyfriend has put on me? And it's all about kind of shedding light on where these beliefs come from. And are they still serving you?
Yes.
You know?
It may be that they served you for a particular time and now it's time for you to evolve and move on.
Yeah, it was a defence mechanism, it protected you, it worked, it defined you at that time when maybe you needed some guidance, you know, from our fathers, go into this job. But actually, once we've then step into ourselves and who we are, then we can learn that, that's a bit outdated now, or I don't need to believe that, or I like to just, anything that kind of makes me feel scared, I think is what I need to do. So it felt really scary, cutting all my hair off. Yeah. It felt really scary leaving my business for a couple of months. Yeah. I might come back to no business, but you know what? That's fine. I think it's those things that scare you the most. It's like the old cliche quote, things that scare you the most are the ones you need to do the most. And actually, I think that's where the power lies.
Definitely. So talking of scary things, like, can you talk to me about like a really challenging time in your life and how you've managed to get through that and what you've used to get through that? What's got you through it, really?
Yeah, gosh. Yeah, end of 2013, early 2014 was my hardest ever time. So I was working, I had an awful job in medical sales, but I was actually selling cosmetic surgery. So I worked in on Harley Street for Transform. Probably shouldn't say actually who I worked for, but yeah, don't go with
By
them.
another company that is in Harley Street. It's fine.
Yeah. And so then I was working there. It was a really soul-destroying job, actually, completely soul-destroying. And I was in a really toxic relationship with a guy that I loved so much, like so much. And so, yeah, I got kicked out of this job really horribly, really aggressively. He just basically came up to my office after being like top seller for the last few weeks. And he's like, you need to just leave. Don't say goodbye to your friends, just go. And it wasn't until a few weeks after I realised that the office was failing and they needed to make redundancies and stuff. So rather than do that, they kind of just like tried to make up a reason to let go of you. And I was naive. I could have gone to court and stuff like that. But I was just so like traumatised from the thing. I just wanted to get away from them. And then 2 weeks later, I broke up with the guy, and it was really, really toxic. And I thought I was going to marry him, and he ended up getting back with his ex, and it just tore my heart out. So I had no job, no boyfriend slash fiance slash thought he was my everything, future husband, everything. And then 2 weeks after that, my dad passed away. So it was like, I don't have a job. I don't have a husband. Don't have a dad. Literally, I felt like I had nothing. And yeah, I was just like completely empty.
Yeah.
But it was like, at that time, it's like, do you give up or do you carry on?
Yeah.
And it's like everyone says, you know, the people that find spirituality is usually because of a trauma, or they've got to the point where they're like, right, I need to give up. I can't carry on.
Yeah.
And you're kind of flirting with ideas of not being here anymore and stuff like that. And you suddenly find like this strength. And having, you know, supportive people around you, good friends, people that kind of get you out of the house. And it was actually an ex-boyfriend from before came and stayed with me for 2 weeks because he was like really worried about me. And he just came and stayed around my house, and we went to the pub, and he's like, got out a bit of paper, and he's like, right, let's do all of the things to get hands back to hands, because he used to call me Hands. And he's like, right, all the things that I used to love. He's like, right, you need to do this, you need to listen to that music, you need to go to that place that you really like. And he just kind of wrote out all these things. Can't remember if I did most of them or not, but it's just slowly building yourself back up. Yeah, I mean, I can't even say I got into yoga and it saved me or anything, because it just wasn't the case. Like, I started to find work, I found a new job. That ended up being a really great job with really great people. I slowly got over the toxic relationship with a bit of therapy and stuff. I had a tough time selling my dad's house and clearing out all of the stuff because I was on my own, because my other sisters lived abroad, so I kind of was in that house on my own, doing it all on my own. And then, like I said to you earlier, like when the house sold, we had like a little bit of money each split between us, because he had quite a big mortgage, and the $5,000 that I had, I put 3 towards my yoga teacher training, and then the 2 towards, you know, venues, bought all my yoga mats, bought my website. So everything just went into creating this new future. And yeah, just time's a great healer. Mindfulness, meditation. Yeah, just, I don't really know how I did it. I can't even remember it. It's like such a blur, I think. I was in a lot of shock and trauma and stuff, and you kind of just, I don't know if you block things out or... Yeah, it's just, it seems so far, it seems such a long time ago. But it's really, really weird, because I went from 2013, it was kind of like, it happened between October and January, so it was the end of the year, beginning of the next year. So that was obviously, let's say 2013 was my worst ever year. 2015 was my best ever year to date.
Really?
So that's such a big turnaround. And, you know, I went and did my teacher training. I didn't tell anyone I was doing it because I didn't think I'd be able to pass. Didn't think I was going to be good enough. Didn't think I'd be able to hack the course, you know. I'm not a morning person. We had to be up at 4:30. We were doing cleansing techniques at 5. We did 2.5 hours of yoga from 5:30 to 7. Then we did an hour of breathing. Then we had breakfast at like 9:30, 10. I just looked at the schedule, vegan. I was, oh my God, I eat meat like 3 times a day. That was my biggest fear.
Yeah.
Will I even be able to survive? So went off and did it, and ended up being the only person that didn't miss a class out of the whole course. Most people injured themselves or got sick or had a bit of a meltdown and stuff. Ended up going to every single class, and actually one of my teachers came up to me at the end, and they were very, very fair between all of us, but he said to me at the end, he's like, oh, I really had not a soft spot, because he was married, but you were like one of my favourites. And not many people have said that to me before, because I'm a little bit like Marmite.
Yeah.
Tend to rub people up the wrong way a lot. So for one of my teachers to come and say that to me, I was just like, oh, that's so nice.
Yeah.
You know.
Exactly.
So then I came back, built up my business, and yeah, those traumatic times seem like a long time ago. Obviously they're still there because they still affect me, but yeah.
I can't even imagine what that's like. It must be so.
It is tough, but you know what, actually, like, I have a lot of private clients. Had one recently who's, you know, an older guy, and he's just gone through a divorce, and his mum passed away, and he's there and he's telling me all this stuff, and he's probably like, oh, you know, you probably can't relate. And you know, I listened to him and I smiled and I said, you know what, I've been through exactly the same thing as you. And I told him, and it was exactly the same circumstances. It's just he's 50 and I was 25, 24 when it happened. So in a way, it has made me more empathetic, compassionate towards people that are going through the same thing. And maybe I can offer little nuggets of advice that might help someone. But yeah, I think when you go through these things when you're younger, it does kind of build up some sort of resilience.
Yeah.
Because I just think if I can get through that, I can get through anything. So nothing phases me too much now, really at all. Nothing. That was the worst thing ever. So I can't imagine anything moving forward would be too much more traumatic than that.
No.
So yeah.
Amazing. And so thank you so much for sharing that. That's really, I really appreciate that, because it sounds awful, and I'm so pleased that you made it through and you've come to be here today, and you're like sharing this amazing advice and everything, because there'll be people that you will touch, and you've got such a great gift, and it's really important that you share that with people.
Thank you.
If people want to find out more about you and get some advice from you, where can they reach out to you?
Well, firstly, I'd just like to say that I'm not trained in counselling or anything like that. So I think we do have to be careful with the advice that we give to people, because my advice might not be therapeutically sound or whatever, but I can just give people the things that I did. It might work for them, it might not, but I mean, people can contact me on Instagram or email and stuff like that, but I do think professional advice is the best way to go, but obviously I'm always here to help or listen or anything like that. But
and if they want to follow your journey and get daily inspiration and know more about your retreats and classes, where would they? Where is best
my
to
website probably through my website, my email address, hannahpresenceyoga.com, hannahpresence@yahoo.co.uk. It's on there. I'm terrible at updating my website, to be fair. You're better off being on my Instagram, but with daily updates. But yeah, I will be more proactive on updating my website and stuff like that.
And what's your Instagram?
@hannahpresence.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I'll be sure to put it in the comments so people can find you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having
us.
us.
You've been so good. Look at you.
She's good.
Oh,
I was like, oh, maybe I won't cry today. And then, oh, God, it always creeps up and you're like,
and that's fine. That's fine. Like I said, obviously really traumatic. So emotions, all my emotions are good. So, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I hope it's been a little bit of value anyway to you.
Completely.
Can't wait to see
I will link you up in the finished product.
Good.
Thank you.
All right, shall we love you and leave you then? She's like, yes, let's go, Mum. Enough of this.